Welcome to the Folktale Project. This is Dan Scholes. Today we have our final Chinese fairy tale of the week. This story comes from the section of the Chinese fairy book of historic legends. And my goodness, this is the kind of tale that I really enjoy because I can see this unfolding in my mind's eye as a film. This is The Sorcerer of the White Lotus Lodge. Once upon a time, there was a sorcerer who belonged to the White Lotus Lodge. He knew how to deceive the multitude with his black arts, and many who wished to learn the secret of his enchantments became his pupils. One day, the sorcerer wished to go out. He placed a bowl, which he covered with another bowl, in the hall of his house, and ordered his pupils to watch it. But he warned them against uncovering the bowl to see what might be in it. No sooner had he gone than the pupils uncovered the bowl and saw that it was filled with clear water, and floating on the water was a little ship made of straw, with real masts and sails. They were surprised and pushed it with their fingers till it upset. Then they quickly righted it again and once more covered the bowl. By that time the sorcerer was already standing among them. He was angry and scolded them, saying, "Why did you disobey my command?" His students rose and denied that they had done so. But the sorcerer answered, "Did not my ship turn turtle at sea, and yet you try to deceive me?" On another evening, he lit a giant candle in his room, and ordered his pupils to watch it lest it be blown out by the wind. It must have been at the second watch of the night, and the sorcerer had not yet come back. The pupils grew tired and sleepy, so they went to bed, and gradually fell asleep. When they woke up again, the candle had gone out, so they rose quickly and relit it, but the sorcerer was already in the room, and again he scolded them. "Truly, we did not sleep. How could the light have gone out?" Angrily the sorcerer replied, "You let me walk 15 miles in the dark, and you still can talk such nonsense." Then his pupils were very much frightened. In the course of time, one of his pupils insulted the sorcerer. The latter made note of the insult, but said nothing. Soon after, he told the pupil to feed the swine, and no sooner had he entered the sty than his master turned him into a pig. The sorcerer then at once called in a butcher, sold the pig to the man, and he went the way of all pigs who go to the butcher. One day, this pupil's father turned up to ask after his son, for he had not come back to his home for a long time. The sorcerer told him that his son had left him long ago. The father returned home and inquired everywhere for his son without success. But one of his son's fellow pupils, who knew of the matter, informed the father. So the father complained to the district mandarin. The latter, however, feared that the sorcerer might make himself invisible. He did not dare to have him arrested, but informed his superior and begged for 1,000 well-armed soldiers. These surrounded the sorcerer's home and seized him, together with his wife and his child. All three were put into wooden cages to be transported to the capital. The road wound through the mountains, and in the midst of the hills up came a giant as large as a tree, with eyes like saucers, a mouth like a plate, and teeth a foot long. The soldiers stood there trembling and did not dare to move. Said the sorcerer, "That is a mountain spirit. My wife will be able to drive him off." They did as he suggested, unchained the woman, and she took a spear and went to meet the giant. The latter was angered, and he swallowed her, tooth and nail. This frightened the rest all the more. The sorcerer said, "Well, if he has done away with my wife, then it is my son's turn." So they let the son out of his cage. But the giant swallowed him in the same way. The rest all looked on without knowing what to do. The sorcerer then wept with rage and said, "First he destroys my wife, and then my son. If only he might be punished for it, but I am the only one who can punish him." And sure enough, they took him out of his cage too, gave him a sword, and sent him out against the giant. The sorcerer and the giant fought with each other for a time, and at last the giant seized the sorcerer, thrust him into his maw, stretched his neck, and swallowed him. Then he went his way contentedly. And now, when it was too late, the soldiers realized that the sorcerer had tricked them. And that is The Sorcerer of the White Lotus Lodge. And I just really enjoy this story. I just love this story. This is one of those stories that I can see playing out, like I said, as a film, animated or not. I can still see it, and I hope you can too. This is Dan Scholes for the Folktale Project. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, anywhere you like to get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Folktale Project. You can find us on Auto Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you like to listen. And you can always head over to folktaleproject.com, where you'll find a new story waiting for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget that if you'd like to help support the podcast, you can always head over to folktaleproject.com/support, where you'll find links out to, support the Folktale Project. Next week, we'll be back with a special wrap-up of one of our longer series this year. As we head into the end of the year, we're going to finish the story of Blondine. As always, thank you so much for listening.